Ariana Cole woke up early that morning, feeling calm and ready for a long day ahead. She had an important business deal later in the afternoon, and she needed to withdraw a large amount of money in cash for a private purchase she did not want her assistants involved in. Ariana was the CEO of a major tech company, one of the fastest growing in the country, but more importantly, she was also the quiet majority shareholder of the same bank she was about to visit. The bank most people believed was owned by men in suits sitting in tall offices. Ariana never liked showing off her power, so she rarely told anyone about the shares she controlled. She preferred to walk like a normal person, talk like a normal person, and live like a normal person. This habit of staying simple often surprised people, but it always protected her from fake respect. She wanted to see how people behaved when they thought she was ordinary. Today was going to prove exactly why she believed in that principle. Ariana dressed simply after visiting a charity center early that morning. She wore a plain gray hoodie, black jeans, and white shoes. Nothing that showed she was one of the richest women in the city. Her hair was tied back loosely, and she carried a small bag with her documents and IDs. Most people would never imagine that this simple woman earned more in 1 hour than some earned in a year. Ariana liked it that way. She believed that true power did not need to be shouted. It only needed to be used at the right time. She walked into the downtown bank branch with a relaxed face. The building was large, bright, and busy with morning customers. People stood in lines, some filling forms, some arguing about small charges, and some standing silently waiting for their turn. Ariana took her place in line, just like everyone else. Never expecting trouble, her plan was simple: withdraw her money, handle her meeting, and move on with her day. But even before she reached the counter, she noticed a few employees looking at her strangely. Their eyes scanned her from head to toe. Not with respect, but with silent doubt, Ariana ignored it, believing it might just be normal curiosity. She reached the front desk and greeted the teller politely. The young teller did not greet her back. She only raised an eyebrow. Ariana stayed calm and explained her request. She needed a large cash withdrawal from her personal account and handed over her ID. The teller took the ID, stared at it for too long, and then looked back at Ariana with suspicion. She whispered something to the colleague next to her, and both of them exchanged looks that Ariana instantly recognized. It was the look she had seen many times in her life. The look that doubted her value, her identity, and her right to be anywhere important. Ariana kept her voice polite and asked if there was a problem. The teller did not answer her directly. Instead, she spoke loudly to another employee across the room. "Can you check this? Something feels off," she said. As if Ariana were not even standing there, other customers began turning their heads. Curious or confused, Ariana's heart stayed steady, but she felt the familiar sting of being judged too quickly. Still, she decided to give them the benefit of the doubt. Minutes passed and more employees joined the conversation. They looked at her ID, whispered, frowned, and shook their heads. Not one of them spoke to Ariana with respect or clarity. Finally, the teller returned and asked her coldly, "Why do you need this much cash?" Her tone was not a question but an accusation. Ariana calmly replied that it was her money and she had the right to withdraw it. The teller rolled her eyes and said, "People don't usually take out this amount, especially people who come dressed like this." Ariana understood now that this was more than confusion. This was disrespect mixed with prejudice, but she still kept her voice steady as she repeated her request. The teller sighed dramatically and said she needed to call the manager. Ariana nodded, knowing exactly how the manager would behave. Not because she was guessing, but because she had seen this pattern 1,000 times before. As she waited, Ariana realized something important. This morning was not just about withdrawing her own money. It was about revealing what people did when they believed she was nobody, and soon. This bank branch would learn who she really was. Not because she wanted revenge, but because she wanted justice and truth. Ariana stood quietly as the manager approached. She did not know that the moment ahead would change the entire bank forever. Ariana stood quietly as the manager approached the counter. The manager, a woman named Linda Hart, walked with sharp heels and an expression that carried more judgment than professionalism before even reaching Ariana. She glanced at her clothing and sighed loudly as if she already knew the kind of problem she believed she was dealing with. Ariana noticed every detail: the crossed arms, the raised chin, the cold stare. She waited calmly, hoping for at least one person to treat her with fairness. Linda stopped at the counter and did not greet Ariana. Instead, she turned to the teller and asked, "What happened here?" in a tired voice. The teller quickly explained the situation, but in a twisted way. Making Ariana sound suspicious, she said Ariana wanted a large, unusual withdrawal and that her ID did not feel right. Ariana listened silently, surprised at how easy it was for them to create doubt with no reason. Linda finally looked at Ariana and spoke with a slow, condescending tone. "Ma'am, we cannot approve this withdrawal." Ariana lifted her eyes, calm but firm, and asked, "And why not?" Linda shrugged casually. "Your request is too big, and your identification is questionable." Her words carried no respect. No courtesy, only assumptions. Ariana replied politely that her ID was valid and her account had more than enough balance. But Linda waved her hand dismissively. "People like you always say that." The words hit Ariana like a cold slap. She knew exactly what people like you meant. She knew the manager wasn't talking about clothes or ID. She was talking about race, appearance, and prejudice still. Ariana stayed calm and asked them to check her account properly. Linda refused. Saying she did not have time for stories, Ariana realized this was no longer a misunderstanding. This was deliberate disrespect. The customers behind her murmured, trying to understand what was happening. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked entertained, as if watching drama in public. Ariana stood tall, despite the growing tension around her. Linda then said something that changed the tone even more. "If you don't leave now, we will call security." Ariana blinked slowly, trying to process the absurdity of what she just heard. She had walked in peacefully, requested her own money, provided valid ID, and done nothing wrong. Yet she was being threatened while her own staff treated her like a criminal. Ariana asked in a steady voice, "Are you refusing to check my account?" Linda smirked and said, "I don't need to." "You don't look like someone with that kind of money." That sentence spread across the bank like wildfire. A few customers gasped softly, and one old woman shook her head in disappointment. Ariana felt a familiar mix of anger and sadness rise in her chest. She had experienced racism and disrespect before, but it never stopped hurting still. She refused to lose her composure. Calmly, she asked again if they were denying her request without proper verification. Linda rolled her eyes. "Yes, and if you continue arguing, I will call security." Ariana simply nodded. "Then please call them." Her voice was soft, but the strength inside it made Linda pause. For a moment, the manager seemed unsure, but her pride pushed her forward. She signaled to two security guards nearby. The guards approached slowly, unsure of what they were walking into. Linda spoke loudly for everyone to hear. "This woman is refusing to leave after a denied transaction." Ariana kept her eyes on the guards. Calm and respectful, the guards asked Ariana for her side of the story. Ariana explained everything in clear, simple words. The guards exchanged looks. Realizing this situation felt wrong, unlike the bank staff, they did not seem eager to jump to conclusions. Linda grew irritated that the guards didn't immediately force Ariana out. She snapped at them, just escort her outside. One guard, older and more experienced, quietly told Linda that he could not remove a customer without reason. Linda glared at him as if he had betrayed her. Ariana noticed the tension and quietly said, "I would like to speak to someone above you." Linda laughed loudly, a mocking laugh that echoed in the bank lobby. "Someone above me," she repeated. "Do you think the district supervisor will waste time on you?" Ariana stayed steady. "Please call him." Linda refused. "No. I don't take orders from people pretending to be rich." The disrespect was now open, loud and shameless. Ariana looked around. Seeing the disbelief on some customers' faces, everyone in the room felt the unfairness. Even those who said nothing. Then Ariana said something quietly, something that made Linda freeze for just a second. "Call the highest authority connected to this branch." Linda narrowed her eyes. And why would I do that? Ariana replied in a calm, controlled voice. Because you are about to learn exactly who I am. That sentence hung in the air. Heavy and powerful. The bank did not know it yet. But their entire world was about to flip. The room felt heavier as soon as Ariana said those words. Linda stared at her with sharp irritation, the kind that came from pride mixed with ignorance. She believed Ariana was bluffing, just another customer pretending to be important. The teller smirked quietly behind the counter, thinking Ariana would soon be escorted out. But Ariana stood with a calm confidence that made a few customers shift uncomfortably. Something about her stillness carried a quiet authority. Even if no one recognized it yet, Linda stepped closer with a mocking smile. So tell me, she said slowly, who exactly do you think you are? Ariana kept her voice calm. Someone who deserves respect and proper service. Linda scoffed loudly. Respect is earned, not demanded, Ariana replied softly. Respect should be basic, not optional. That single sentence made a few people look down at the floor. Realizing the truth in her words, but Linda was not interested in truth. She was interested in winning. Her pride mattered more than fairness. More than professionalism, more than the truth. She crossed her arms and said, "This conversation is over," Ariana responded. "It's over when the right person handles it." That irritated Linda even more. She tilted her head and said, "Fine, I will call someone." But then she smirked. "I'll call the fraud department instead." The teller laughed under her breath, as if Ariana had already lost. Ariana did not flinch. Her eyes remained steady, watching the scene unfold like she had seen it many times before. She believed in letting people show who they were before showing them who she was. And right now, Linda and her team were revealing their true nature clearly. Linda picked up the phone and dialed an internal number with exaggerated movements. She spoke loudly on purpose, so the entire bank could hear. "Yes, I have a suspicious customer here," she said, emphasizing the word suspicious. "She is refusing to leave and trying to withdraw a large sum." Ariana watched as the teller nodded with approval. Everyone seemed so sure they were right, so sure that Ariana was the problem. After a short conversation, Linda hung up. "They will review your account," she said sharply. "But until then, this transaction is denied," Ariana asked calmly. "Did they actually check my account?" Linda folded her arms. "They don't need to. I told them everything they needed to know." Ariana blinked slowly. "You told them your version, not the truth." Linda shrugged. "My version is the truth." That arrogance made the atmosphere even more uncomfortable for onlookers. Some customers began whispering, wondering how a manager could behave like this. A young woman standing nearby finally spoke up. "Maybe you should just check her account properly," she said to Linda. But Linda snapped at her. "Mind your own business?" The woman stepped back. Shaken by the harsh tone, Ariana glanced at her with a grateful nod. Even a small act of fairness meant something in moments like this. Linda turned back to Ariana, ready to end the conversation. "Listen," she said slowly. "People try scams all the time." Ariana raised her eyebrow. "Is that what you think this is?" Linda nodded confidently. "Absolutely." "No one like you withdraws money like this." Ariana repeated her words in a soft whisper. "No one like me." Linda smiled proudly. Unaware she had just exposed her own prejudice in public, Ariana took one small step forward. "Then call the highest authority connected to this branch." Linda shook her head. "I already told you that's not happening," Ariana asked again. "Call the regional director." Linda laughed loudly. "He won't take your call. He's busy with real clients." Ariana breathed in slowly. She had given them every chance to act with decency, every chance to fix their mistake before it grew worse, but their arrogance was too strong. Their assumptions too deep, so she said quietly, "You are making the biggest mistake of your career." Linda raised her eyebrows mockingly. "Oh, really?" she said. "And why is that?" Ariana looked her straight in the eyes. "Because you're about to find out exactly who runs this bank." The words dropped like a stone into a silent lake. The employees blinked, confused. A few customers turned their heads sharply. Even the security guards exchanged nervous glances. Linda opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, an employee from the back office rushed to the front. He held a printed document, his face pale, his hands shaking slightly. He whispered something into the teller's ear. The teller's smile disappeared instantly, replaced with confusion, then fear. The teller turned toward Linda, whispering fast. Linda's expression changed for the first time. Her confident smirk faded. Her eyebrows lowered. She looked at Ariana. Then back at the paper, her lips parted slightly in shock. Ariana stayed still. She had seen this moment coming. The moment when the truth began to crack through their arrogance. But the full reveal was still ahead, and when it arrived, the whole bank would never be the same again. A quiet tension spread through the bank lobby as Ariana waited for someone to finally acknowledge the truth. Her calm expression contrasted sharply with the nervous energy of the staff around her. Linda snatched the paper from the teller, her irritation returning as she skimmed through the document, but with each line she read, her face changed, the arrogance softened, the confidence cracked, and something new appeared in her eyes. Fear? Ariana watched her closely. She didn't speak, didn't interrupt, didn't hurry. She knew the truth always revealed itself when people let their assumptions guide them. Linda slowly lowered the paper, but hid it behind her back as if hoping the information might disappear. But it didn't. The damage was already done. The teller whispered, "Is everything okay?" Linda didn't answer. She stood frozen for a moment, trapped between her pride and the sudden realization of her mistake. Ariana stepped forward gently and asked, "Would you like to continue this conversation professionally now?" Her voice was soft, but carried more authority than any raised voice could. Before Linda could respond, the two security guards approached again. The older guard cleared his throat. "Ma'am." "Is everything all right here?" Ariana nodded politely. "I am fine." "But your manager seems confused," Linda snapped back to life. "Security, please escort her out," but the guards didn't move. Instead, they looked at each other and then at Linda, unsure whether to follow the command. Something about Ariana's calm composure made them hesitate. The younger guard asked politely, "Do you have an issue with her account?" Linda opened her mouth, but couldn't find the right lie to cover the truth. Her words came out broken. She, it's complicated." Ariana tilted her head. "Is it? Or is it only complicated because you made it complicated?" Customers around them began whispering. Some leaned forward, others watched with concern. Everyone could sense the shift in power, but didn't understand it yet. Ariana remained steady, not raising her voice, not breaking her posture. She looked like someone fully in control, even in the middle of chaos. Finally, Ariana spoke with quiet firmness. "Before you call anyone else, I want you to do something very simple." Linda frowned and asked, "What?" Ariana pointed toward the computer behind the counter. "Pull up my account." Linda hesitated. She knew what she would find. She knew exactly what the document revealed. But her pride screamed for her to resist. Still, the murmurs from customers and the growing discomfort from her staff pushed her to obey. With stiff fingers, she turned to the computer and typed Ariana's name. The moment the account details appeared, the teller gasped. The screen didn't just show a normal customer profile. It displayed priority client executive level and under account ownership. Something even more shocking appeared: shareholder access. Tier 1, the teller covered her mouth with her hand. Even the security guards leaned closer. Trying to understand what those labels meant, Ariana didn't move an inch. Her face calm, as if she already knew what they were discovering. Linda stared at the screen, stunned, speechless. She clicked deeper into the system, hoping it was a mistake. But the more she clicked, the worse it became for her. She discovered not only the size of Ariana's accounts, but also her name listed among the board's ownership registry. Her connection to the bank was not small. It was foundational. Linda whispered under her breath, This can't be right," Ariana replied softly. "It's right." The older security guard stepped closer. "Ma'am, are you?" "Someone important here." Ariana looked at him and gave a small, calm smile. "I tried to show respect without titles," she said gently. "But your staff refused to do the same." The tension in the room grew heavier as Linda stumbled backward slightly. Her confidence collapsed completely. Her voice trembled. "Why didn't you say anything at the start?" Ariana replied. "Because you should treat every customer with respect." Not just the ones you believe are powerful. A few customers clapped softly under their breaths. Others shook their heads at how the situation had played out. Ariana turned to the teller and said, "Please print the regional director's contact information." The teller obeyed instantly, her hands shaking the whole time. But before Ariana could take the printed paper, Linda panicked. "No. Wait," she said desperately. "I can fix this. We can resolve this right here." Ariana looked at her calmly. "You had every chance to resolve it earlier, but you chose disrespect?" Linda's voice cracked. "Please don't contact the director. It will ruin me." Ariana stayed silent for a moment, not because she wanted to punish Linda, but because she wanted her to understand the weight of her behavior. A crowd had formed by now. Everyone was watching as Linda stood there shaking. Ariana finally spoke, slow and steady. "I am not here to ruin you. I am here to hold you accountable." Before Linda could respond, a loud voice echoed through the lobby, a voice that made everyone turn their heads at once. One of the bankers from the back shouted, "Miss Cole, the regional director is already on his way." Linda's face drained of all color. Ariana simply nodded. The moment of truth had officially begun. The sound of the banker's voice announcing the regional director's arrival spread through the lobby like lightning. Every customer stopped talking. Every employee froze. And even the security guards straightened their posture. Ariana remained still, her expression calm. Steady and unreadable. Linda, however, looked as if the floor had opened beneath her feet. Her hands trembled. Her face turned pale. And for the first time that morning, she felt fear stronger than her pride. The teller whispered loudly, "He's coming here." Right now, another employee rushed to the front with wide eyes. "He said he'll be here in 5 minutes. Everyone looked at Ariana as if she had transformed into someone entirely different. But Ariana didn't react. She simply adjusted one sleeve and waited with quiet patience. Linda stepped closer with shaking breath. "Ms. Cole," she stuttered, the honorific awkward in her mouth for the first time. Ariana looked at her with a soft, controlled expression. "Yes," she replied calmly. Linda swallowed hard. "Please. We can fix this before he comes." Ariana shook her head gently. "You've already shown me how you treat people when you think they are powerless." The younger teller, who had earlier smirked at Ariana, now looked horrified. She whispered to her colleague, "We treated her like nothing." Her colleague sighed. "And she owns part of the bank." Their whispers were not quiet enough. And several customers heard everything. A middle-aged man in line muttered under his breath. "This is embarrassing," another customer said. "This whole place needs training." Even the security guard, who once doubted Ariana now, stood protectively near her. As if guarding someone important, Ariana's phone buzzed gently in her pocket. She checked the screen and saw a message from one of her board assistants. It said the director is aware of the situation. He is not happy. Arriving shortly, Ariana slid her phone away and continued standing quietly. Her silence alone created tension stronger than anger could ever create. Linda paced nervously. She tugged at her blazer, fixed her hair, and whispered instructions to the teller even though no one was listening anymore. The teller nervously tapped her keyboard, pretending to work. The whole staff looked like they had been pushed into a storm they weren't prepared for. 3 minutes later, the front door swung open sharply. A tall man in a dark suit rushed inside. He looked serious, almost angry. His steps quick and filled with purpose. Everyone immediately recognized him. He wasn't just the regional director. He was Mr. Raymond Steele, one of the highest-ranking executives in the bank's entire state network. He walked past customers without greeting, scanning the lobby with sharp eyes. The moment his gaze landed on Ariana, his entire expression changed. His stern face softened instantly, and his pace slowed with respect. "Miss Cole," he said, almost breathless. "I came as soon as I was informed." The entire lobby went silent. The employees stiffened like statues. Ariana gave a small nod. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Steele." Didn't greet the manager, didn't acknowledge the staff, didn't ask for explanations. He turned directly to Ariana. "Are you all right?" he asked in a respectful tone. Ariana nodded politely. "I'm fine, but your staff refused to check my account," she continued calmly. And they threatened to remove me from the building. Mr. Steele's jaw tightened. His eyes slowly shifted toward Linda. The weight of his stare could have knocked down a wall. "Is this true?" he asked. His voice low, but full of power. Linda stuttered, "Sir. We thought—" Mr. Steele cut her off sharply. "You thought wrong." His words hit the room like thunder. The teller tried to explain, but her voice cracked. "We didn't know who she was." Mr. Steele slammed his palm lightly on the counter. "You should treat every customer with respect, regardless of who they are." Ariana stood quietly as he continued. "Ms. Cole is not only a priority client," he said loudly for everyone to hear. "She is one of the bank's majority shareholders." Gasps echoed through the lobby. Every face showed shock, regret, or fear. Even customers looked embarrassed for the staff. Linda whispered, "Shareholder," as if she had just learned the word existed. The teller covered her mouth again. The younger employees looked ready to cry. Ariana finally spoke. "I asked for a simple withdrawal, and instead I was questioned, judged, and threatened." Her tone was gentle, but the truth in it cut deeper than anger ever could. Mr. Steele turned to the staff, his voice thunderous. "I want a full incident report from every employee who spoke to Ms. Cole. I want security footage pulled, and HR will review every detail of this interaction." Linda looked like she had lost everything. Her shoulders drooped. Her confidence evaporated. She whispered, "I'm so sorry." Ariana nodded once. "I hope you understand why this matters." As the room stayed silent, Mr. Steele asked Ariana politely, "Would you like to continue your transaction now?" Ariana gave a small, calm smile. "Yes," she said, "but we aren't done yet." The entire bank held its breath. They knew the story wasn't over, and the next part would change everything forever. Silence filled the bank lobby after Ariana said they were not done yet. Everyone watched her closely, unsure of what she would say or do next. Even Mr. Steele, the regional director, stood respectfully beside her. Waiting for her lead, Linda trembled. The teller stared blankly, and the security guards stood frozen in place. The moment was thick with tension, the kind that made every breath feel heavier than usual. Ariana took a slow breath and stepped closer to the counter. Her calm voice carried more authority than shouting ever could. "I came here for a simple withdrawal," she said, her tone steady and strong. "But what I received was humiliation, assumptions, and open disrespect." Heads lowered around the room as guilt sank in. Even customers looked uncomfortable, as if witnessing something too real, too raw, too honest. Mr. Steele cleared his throat, wanting to speak, but Ariana gently raised her hand. He immediately fell silent. Understanding she needed to finish her truth, Ariana turned her eyes toward Linda. "You refused to help me without even checking my identity," she said. "You judged me based on what I wear, how I look, and who you think I am." Linda swallowed hard, afraid to respond. She looked at Ariana as if seeing her for the first time, not as a customer, not as a stranger, but as the woman she had wronged deeply. Ariana continued, "And then you threatened to remove me from the building because you believed I did not belong here." The teller stepped back. Tears forming in her eyes, she whispered, "We didn't know. We didn't know who you were." Ariana looked at her calmly. "That is exactly the problem," she replied. "You should treat everyone with respect, not only the ones who appear powerful." Mr. Steele stepped forward now, his voice heavy and serious. "Ms. Cole, you have every right to be upset," he said. "You are not just a priority client," he continued. "You are a majority shareholder in this bank." Gasps spread through the room. Some customers whispered loudly, some employees covered their mouths. Others stared at the floor in shame, but Ariana didn't react with pride or arrogance. She didn't raise her chin or gloat in victory. She simply nodded. "Yes," she said softly. "I own this bank." Her words echoed through the room like a shockwave. People stiffened, hearts raced, and breaths halted. Even the security guard, who had doubted her earlier, now stood straighter, embarrassed that he hadn't realized her importance. Linda nearly collapsed against the counter. You own it," Linda whispered, her voice trembling. Ariana nodded again. "Calm as the morning sun. I own controlling shares," she said. And my signature is on the documents that guide how this bank operates? Mr. Steele lowered his head respectfully. The teller whispered, I can't believe we treated her like this. A young employee behind the counter started crying quietly. The weight of their actions settled heavily on them, heavier than any corporate rule or policy could ever explain. Ariana looked slowly around the room. I didn't come here to show power, she said. I didn't come here to punish anyone. Her voice softened. Almost gentle, I came here like any customer. Hoping to be treated with dignity, the whole lobby remained silent. Even the ticking clock on the wall felt louder. Everyone waited for her next words, afraid of what she might decide, afraid of what consequences would follow. Ariana turned her eyes back toward Linda. Her gaze was strong, but steady. I gave you many chances to correct your mistake, she said, but each time you chose pride over professionalism. Linda's lips trembled. I'm so sorry, she whispered, but sorry cannot undo what happened. Ariana said quietly. She stepped closer, her voice clear enough for every person to hear. You refused the owner of this bank? You tried to have her removed from her own building? Gasps filled the room again. Louder this time? No one dared look directly at Ariana. They were too ashamed, too stunned, too overwhelmed. Mr. Steele finally spoke. Ms. Cole, I assure you, every detail will be handled immediately. Ariana nodded. But before any action is taken, she said, I want every person here to understand the lesson. She looked around the room once more. A quiet, powerful moment settled over everyone. You never know who is standing in front of you, she said softly. So treat every person with the same respect you would give a CEO, a director, or a shareholder. Those words struck deeper than anger ever could. People nodded, some wiping tears, some lowering their heads. Ariana finally stepped back and said, Now let's finish what I came here to do. And with that, the entire bank knew this was only the beginning of the change she would bring. The bank lobby stayed painfully silent after Ariana announced the truth. No one moved, no one spoke. And even the hum of the air conditioner felt louder than the beating hearts in the room. Ariana stood tall, calm, and centered, her presence stronger than any anger could ever be. Linda's knees felt weak beneath her, as if she might collapse at any moment. The teller beside her clutched the counter for support. The security guards looked straight ahead, ashamed they hadn't stepped in sooner. Mr. Steele cleared his throat, trying to regain his authority. Miss Cole, he said respectfully, I will begin the internal investigation immediately. Ariana nodded. Good. Because what happened today is not only about me. Her voice carried through the room, gentle but powerful. It's about every customer who walked into this bank and received disrespect simply because someone in power decided they looked wrong. A customer in the back whispered, She's right. Another nodded. This happens too often. The employees felt smaller and smaller as they listened. Their actions had created a moment that exposed more than just one mistake. It exposed a deeper problem inside their branch. Ariana stepped toward the counter again. I don't want anyone fired without understanding the lesson, she said. But I do want the truth written down, clearly and honestly. Mr. Steele nodded firmly. You will have it, he turned to the staff, his voice sharp and stern. Every employee who interacted with Ms. Cole will write a full report today. Security footage will be reviewed, he continued. And HR will perform mandatory interviews with every witness. The employees swallowed hard. The reality of consequences settling in, Ariana glanced at Linda, who looked like a shadow of the confident manager she had tried to be earlier. Ms. Hart, Ariana said calmly. Linda lifted her head slowly, tears in her eyes. Do you have anything to say? Ariana asked. Linda choked on her breath and whispered, I treated you terribly. I was wrong, she continued. Barely able to speak, and I'm ashamed of myself. Ariana nodded slightly. It takes strength to admit that, she said gently, but admitting is the beginning. Not the end. The teller stepped forward shakily. I joined her in the disrespect, she confessed. I judged you the moment I saw you. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry too. Ariana looked at her with soft eyes. Thank you for your honesty, she said. Now use it to become better. Customers around them nodded quietly. Some even murmured supportive words to the employees. The atmosphere slowly shifted from fear to something more reflective. A sense of accountability settled in the air. Mr. Steele then approached Ariana with a stack of forms and a notebook. "Ms. Cole," he said gently, "may I ask if you want corporate to issue a formal apology?" Ariana paused for a moment. Thinking carefully, she wasn't a woman who used power to crush others. But she was a woman who used power to change things. "Yes," she said finally. "But not just an apology. I want the bank to acknowledge publicly that discrimination, assumptions, and arrogance have no place in customer service." Mr. Steele nodded firmly. "Consider it done. We will publish a company-wide statement," he added, "and your incident will be used as a mandatory training example for all staff in our district." Ariana felt a weight lift slightly from her chest, not because she wanted recognition, but because she wanted real change. Something that would protect the next person who walked through the doors. Someone who might not have the voice or power she had. Linda wiped her tears. "Ms. Cole, please let me keep my job." Her voice trembled with fear. Ariana looked at her for a long moment. She saw regret, fear, humiliation, and a desperate desire to undo what had been done. But she also saw something more important. She saw the opportunity for someone to truly change. "I don't make decisions from anger," Ariana said softly. "You will not lose your job today," Linda gasped with relief, covering her mouth with shaking hands. "But," Ariana continued, "you will attend mandatory training, and you will be supervised closely. You cannot lead others until you know how to treat others." Linda nodded quickly, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me another chance." The entire lobby seemed to breathe again. The tension eased slightly, though the weight of the day still lingered. Ariana then turned to Mr. Steele. "I want to proceed with my transaction now," she said calmly. "Of course," he replied, gesturing her behind the counter. "We'll complete it personally," as she followed him. Every customer stepped aside with quiet respect. Some nodded at her, some whispered words of admiration. Ariana didn't walk through them like a queen. She walked through them like a woman who fought for fairness. A woman who taught a lesson without raising her voice. A woman who proved that real power is not loud. It is composed, steady, and truthful. But even as the transaction began, everyone knew something else was coming. Something bigger. Something final. The story wasn't finished. Not until Ariana brought change to the entire bank system. Ariana followed Mr. Steele into the private transaction office. The room was quiet, clean, and professional. A complete contrast to the chaos she had just left behind. He gestured for her to sit, but Ariana remained standing. She watched him carefully as he typed her information into the system and processed her withdrawal. He looked nervous, respectful, and incredibly aware of the power she held. When he finished, he handed the cash to her with steady hands. "Your transaction is complete, Ms. Cole," he said softly. Ariana took the envelope and placed it in her bag. But she didn't move toward the door. She stood still, thinking deeply. Her silence made Mr. Steele shift uncomfortably in his chair. Finally, she spoke. "This isn't just about today," she said. "This is about how people are treated every day in branches across the city." Her voice was calm but filled with purpose. Mr. Steele nodded quickly. "I agree, and I will make sure corporate understands the seriousness of this." Ariana looked at him with a steady gaze. "They won't understand unless I show them," she replied. Mr. Steele swallowed nervously. "What do you plan to do?" he asked. Trying to hide the fear in his voice, Ariana took a slow breath. "I'm visiting the headquarters tomorrow," she said. "And I want a full meeting with the board." Mr. Steele knew this was no small request. When a majority shareholder demanded a meeting, the board didn't just listen. They rearranged their entire schedule. They canceled flights, postponed conferences, and cleared entire floors the moment she said those words. He understood that something historic was about to happen. Ariana walked back into the lobby. As soon as she appeared, everyone turned toward her. The employees shifted nervously. Customers stood respectfully to the side. And Linda stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Ms. Cole, thank you for not firing me," she said. Ariana nodded once. I gave you a chance, she replied. Now it's on you to become better. Linda lowered her head. She knew this moment would stay with her forever. A turning point in both her career and her character. Ariana walked toward the exit with calm grace, but before she reached the door, she turned around and looked at everyone in the lobby. Her voice carried clearly through the room. Remember something, she said. Power doesn't always walk in with expensive clothes or loud voices. Sometimes it walks in looking ordinary. You will only see it if you look with respect. The customers nodded slowly. The employees felt the truth in every word. In the moment she stepped outside, the bank felt transformed. But the real transformation came the next day. Ariana arrived at the headquarters, a massive glass tower overlooking the city. Security rushed to escort her. Executives hurried out of elevators. Everyone recognized the woman who had shaken an entire branch with a single morning visit. Inside the boardroom, the most powerful people in the bank waited quietly. The CEO of the entire banking corporation sat at the head of the table. He stood up immediately when Ariana entered. Miss Cole, he greeted respectfully. We heard what happened. Ariana didn't waste time. She placed a file on the table, filled with statements, security footage clips, and incident reports. This isn't an isolated problem, she said. This is a pattern, and it ends today. The board members exchanged nervous glances. They had never seen Ariana this serious. She explained everything with calm clarity. The discrimination, the judgment, the arrogance, the way customers were spoken to, the way assumptions replaced professionalism. And then she presented her solution. I want mandatory compassion and cultural respect training for all staff, she said. I want real oversight, real accountability, and real consequences, and I want a public apology published across all of our platforms. The CEO nodded. It will all be done, he said. We will not allow this company to mistreat the very people it serves. Ariana looked around the room. And one more thing, she added calmly. I want the employee who tried to help promoted. Her voice softened. Integrity should be rewarded. The board agreed instantly. Within hours, the apology was drafted. Within days. Training programs rolled out. Within weeks. Customer service across the region transformed. And the story of the black woman CEO who calmly revealed her identity became national news. People everywhere praised her dignity, her strength, her refusal to scream or belittle. She changed a corporation without raising her voice. She changed people's hearts without demanding fear. The bank became known as one of the most ethical in the country. Customers felt safer, employees felt more aware, and Ariana remained the quiet force behind it all. As she walked out of the boardroom that day, the sun shone brightly across the city skyline. Ariana smiled softly. She didn't just withdraw her money. She withdrew a lesson for the entire world, a lesson they would never forget.